Welcome to what truly matters. We live in a world obsessed with more. More money, more success, more recognition, more. We spend our lives chasing the next milestone, convinced that happiness lives somewhere in the future, in the next promotion, the bigger house, the fancier car. And when we finally get what we've been chasing, we barely pause to appreciate it before setting our sights on the next thing. We forget to be grateful for what we already have, for the breath in our lungs, for the people who love us, for the simple miracle of being alive. But what if I told you that gratitude isn't just a nice sentiment? That it's not just about being polite or positive? What if gratitude is actually one of the most powerful forces in the universe, capable of transforming your life in ways you can't even imagine? Today, I want to share with you the story of Marcus, a man who had everything until he lost it all. And in that loss, he discovered something far more valuable than anything he'd ever owned. This is a story about what happens when you finally open your eyes to what truly matters. Marcus Hayes was the kind of man people envied. At 45, he was the CEO of a successful tech startup in San Francisco, drove a Tesla, owned a penthouse overlooking the bay, and wore watches that cost more than most people's cars. He worked 16-hour days, traveled first class, and closed deals worth millions. His calendar was booked solid for the next 3 months. His phone never stopped buzzing with messages, emails, opportunities. Success, Marcus believed, was the only thing that mattered. He'd built his company from nothing, bootstrapped it in his garage 10 years ago with his best friend and college roommate James. They'd poured everything into it, their savings, their time, their relationships, and it had paid off. The company was valued at over $200 million, and they were in talks for an acquisition that would make them both very, very rich. But somewhere along the way, Marcus had forgotten about James, about their friendship, about the reason they'd started the company in the first place, to create something meaningful, to help people, to work on something they believed in. Now it was just about numbers, about market share, about beating the competition. Marcus's wife, Rachel, had left him 2 years ago. She'd told him she felt like she was married to a ghost, that he was never present, never there, even when he was physically in the room. "You have everything, Marcus," she'd said, through tears. "But you appreciate nothing. Not me, not this life we built. You're always looking for the next thing, and you never see what's right in front of you." He'd let her go without much of a fight. There was a deal to close, a presentation to prepare. He didn't have time for drama. His relationship with his daughter Emma was equally strained. She was 16 now, living with Rachel across town. Marcus saw her maybe twice a month, and even then, he was usually checking his phone during their awkward dinners. "Dad, can you just look at me?" Emma had asked him once. "I am looking at you, sweetie." "No, you're not. You're looking through me, like I'm not even here." He'd promised to do better, but promises were easy. Change was hard. Life was good, Marcus told himself. Busy, but good. He had everything a man could want. Until one Tuesday morning in November, when everything changed. Marcus was in his office, preparing for the biggest meeting of his career, the final pitch for the acquisition. The buyers were flying in from New York. This was it, the moment that would make him a multi-millionaire. That's when his assistant Patricia knocked on his door, her face pale. "Marcus, you need to come quick. It's James." "I'm busy, Patricia. Whatever it is, it can wait." "No, Marcus, it can't." James collapsed. "They're taking him to the hospital. It's his heart." The world seemed to tilt. Marcus rushed to the hospital, his heart pounding. James was his business partner. Yes, but before that, He was his friend, his brother, the guy who'd been there through everything, through college, through the lean years, through the long nights building the company. When had they last had a real conversation? When had Marcus last asked James how he was doing? Really doing? He couldn't remember. At the hospital, James's wife, Maria, sat in the waiting room, her face streaked with tears. She looked up when Marcus arrived, and there was something in her eyes. Not anger exactly, but disappointment. Sadness. Is he? He's in surgery, Maria said quietly. They said his heart just gave out. Too much stress, too much pressure, too many years of burning the candle at both ends. Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the gut. The doctors said he'd been having symptoms for months, chest pains, shortness of breath. But he never told anyone. He just kept working, kept pushing. Maria's voice broke. He kept saying the acquisition was too important, that he couldn't let you down. Marcus sank into a chair, his head in his hands. What had they become? What had he become? James survived the surgery, but the doctors were clear. His heart was damaged badly. He would need months of recovery, lifestyle changes, and he could never return to the high-stress environment of running a company. The acquisition deal fell apart. The buyers backed out, unwilling to proceed without both founders at the helm. The company's valuation plummeted. Investors panicked. Within 3 months, everything Marcus had built crumbled. The company had to be sold at a fraction of its worth, just to cover debts. Marcus lost his penthouse, lost his car, lost his savings trying to keep things afloat. By February, he was living in a small one-bedroom apartment in Oakland, working as a consultant for a fraction of his previous salary. The fall from grace was swift and brutal, and he was alone. Emma wouldn't return his calls. Rachel had moved on, dating someone new. James was recovering at home, and Marcus was too ashamed to face him. The friends he'd thought he had, the ones from the country club, the fancy dinners, disappeared the moment his bank account did. One evening, sitting in his nearly empty apartment with a microwave dinner, Marcus looked around and felt nothing. Not sadness, not anger, just emptiness. He had lost everything, and he didn't know what to do. Rock bottom, it turns out, has a strange way of teaching you things. Marcus started walking, long walks through Oakland, through neighborhoods he'd never noticed before when he was too busy speeding by in his Tesla on his way to somewhere important. One morning, he walked past a community center where a sign read, "Free breakfast, everyone welcome." He was hungry and broke, so he went in. The room was full of people, homeless folks, elderly people on fixed incomes, families struggling to make ends meet, and volunteers serving food with genuine smiles. Marcus sat at a table with his tray, feeling out of place in his expensive, though now worn, clothes. "First time here?" asked the elderly woman sitting across from him. She had kind eyes and hands gnarled with arthritis. "Yeah," Marcus muttered. "I'm Dorothy. Welcome. The eggs are pretty good today." They ate in silence for a moment. Then Dorothy said something that stopped Marcus cold. "I'm grateful for mornings like this. Good food, good company, sun coming through those windows. It's enough, you know." Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who clearly had very little was grateful. For eggs, for sunlight. "You're grateful?" he asked, unable to hide his skepticism. Dorothy smiled. "Honey, gratitude isn't about having everything. It's about appreciating anything. I've been homeless, I've been sick, I've lost people I loved. But I'm here. I'm breathing. That's something." Marcus didn't know what to say. He kept coming back to the community center. Not just for the food, but for something else. The people there had so little, yet they seemed lighter, happier, more present than anyone he'd known in his previous life. He started volunteering, washing dishes, serving food, helping organize donations. It gave him something to do, somewhere to be. One day, while sorting through donated clothes, he worked alongside a young man named Carlos, who'd been living on the streets for 2 years. "Man, I'm grateful for this jacket," Carlos said, holding up a worn winter coat. "Last winter nearly killed me. This time, I'll be warm." "You're grateful for a used jacket?" Marcus asked. Carlos looked at him seriously. "Brother, when you don't have anything, you learn to be grateful for everything. Every meal, every warm place to sleep, every person who looks at you like you're human. Gratitude isn't a luxury for people like me. It's survival. It's what keeps you from giving up." That night, alone in his apartment, Marcus cried for the first time in years. He thought about his life, the one he'd lost, the penthouse he'd barely spent time in, the car he'd driven but never enjoyed, the success he'd achieved but never celebrated, the people he'd taken for granted. He'd had everything, and he'd been grateful for nothing. Something shifted in Marcus after that, slowly, gradually. He started keeping a gratitude journal, something he would have mocked a year ago. Every night he wrote down 3 things he was grateful for. At first, it felt stupid, forced. What did he have to be grateful for? He'd lost everything, but he wrote anyway. Day 1, I'm grateful for the sunrise I saw this morning. I'm grateful for the hot water in my shower. I'm grateful that I'm healthy. Day 7, I'm grateful for Dorothy's laugh. I'm grateful for the volunteers at the center who do this work without expecting anything in return. I'm grateful for my hands that can still serve food. Day 30, I'm grateful that James is recovering. I'm grateful that Emma finally texted me back, even if it was just 1 word. I'm grateful for this second chance to figure out what actually matters. The practice changed something in him. His perspective shifted. Where he'd once seen lack, he started seeing abundance. He didn't have a penthouse, but he had a roof over his head. He didn't have a luxury car, but he had legs that could walk. He didn't have millions in the bank, but he had people at the community center who genuinely cared about him. For the first time in his life, Marcus felt grateful. Not for what he had achieved, but for what he had been given. 6 months after his fall, Marcus finally worked up the courage to visit James. Maria answered the door. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she pulled him into a hug. "He's been waiting for you," she said softly. James was in the backyard, reading a book. He looked different, thinner, grayer, but somehow more peaceful. "Marcus," James said, standing slowly. "It's good to see you, brother." "James, I'm so sorry. For everything, for not being there, for not seeing what we were doing to ourselves, for—" "Stop," James said gently. "I'm grateful you're here now. That's what matters." They talked for hours, really talked, for the first time in years. James told him about his recovery, about how the heart attack had been terrifying, but also clarifying. "I almost died, Marcus. And you know what I thought about? Not the company, not the deals, not the money. I thought about Maria, about my kids, about all the dinners I missed, all the moments I wasn't present for. Thought about you and our friendship, and how far we'd drifted." "I thought about all of it too," Marcus admitted. "I had everything, and I was grateful for nothing. I was so busy chasing more that I couldn't see what I already had." "So what now?" James asked. "Now?" Marcus smiled. "Now I'm learning to be grateful for this moment, for this conversation, for the fact that you're alive, and I get another chance to be a real friend." James smiled. "I'm grateful for that too." Marcus reconnected. With Emma. It wasn't easy. There was years of distance to bridge, But he showed up, consistently, without his phone, without distractions. They started having coffee together every Sunday. He listened to her talk about her life, her dreams, her fears. He apologized for not being present. And he told her something he'd never really understood before. Em, I spent your whole childhood chasing success. I thought I was doing it for you, to give you a better life. But the truth is, I was doing it for me, for my ego, and I missed everything. I missed you. I'm so sorry, Emma cried. Marcus cried. I'm grateful I get to know you now, Dad. The real you, not the busy CEO who was always rushing somewhere else. Today, 2 years later, Marcus lives simply. He works as a consultant, but only part-time. He volunteers at the community centre 3 mornings a week. He has dinner with James and Maria every month. He sees Emma every Sunday, without fail. He keeps a gratitude journal, and now it's filled with entries like, I'm grateful for the barista who remembered my coffee order. I'm grateful for the rain that made everything green. I'm grateful for the text from Emma saying she loves me. I'm grateful for my breath, for my heartbeat, for this moment. He doesn't have much money, he doesn't have status, he doesn't have the things that once defined him. But he has something far more valuable: presence, connection, peace, and gratitude. Deep, genuine, transformative gratitude. Marcus discovered what people throughout history have known. Gratitude isn't about being happy all the time. It's about recognizing the good that already exists, even in the midst of difficulty. It's about shifting your focus from what's missing to what's present, from what you've lost to what you still have. And that shift changes everything. Marcus's story teaches us something profound about the power of gratitude. We live in a culture that constantly tells us we don't have enough. Advertising, the social media, the comparison, it all feeds a narrative of lack. But gratitude is the antidote to that poison. Scientific research has proven what ancient wisdom has always known. Gratitude physically changes your brain. Studies show that regular gratitude practice increases dopamine and serotonin, the brain's feel-good chemicals. It reduces stress hormones. It strengthens neural pathways associated with positive emotions. But beyond the science, gratitude does something even more important. It changes how you see your life. When you're grateful, you stop living in the future, always chasing the next thing. You stop living in the past, mourning what you've lost. You start living in the present, recognizing the abundance that already surrounds you. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is perfect. Marcus's life was genuinely difficult after he lost everything. But gratitude meant he could still find reasons to appreciate what remained. A warm meal, a friendly face, a sunrise, a heartbeat. These aren't small things, they're everything. Think about your own life right now. What are you taking for granted? What blessings have become so familiar that you've stopped noticing them? The people who love you, the roof over your head, the ability to read these words, the fact that you woke up this morning. What if you paused right now and felt genuine gratitude for those things? Not superficial, I should be grateful gratitude, but deep, real, heartfelt appreciation. How would that change how you feel in this moment? Gratitude isn't about denying your problems. It's about not letting your problems blind you to your blessings. And here's the most powerful part. Gratitude creates more things to be grateful for. When you appreciate people, you strengthen your relationships. When you appreciate your health, you take better care of your body. When you appreciate your opportunities, you make better use of them. Gratitude is generative. It multiplies. Marcus lost everything before he learned this lesson. But you don't have to. You can start today, right now, in this moment. You can choose to see what's good, to appreciate what's present, to be grateful for what you have, even while working toward what you want. That's the power of gratitude. It doesn't change your circumstances. It changes you. And when you change, everything changes. If Marcus's story touched your heart, if you saw yourself in his journey, if you felt that recognition of taking things for granted, you're not alone. We've all been there. We've all forgotten to be grateful. We've all chased the next thing while ignoring what we already have. But today can be different. If this story resonated with you, I'd love for you to hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel where we share stories that truly matter. Stories that remind us what's important, even when life gets difficult. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Just a friend who's always chasing more. That family member who's going through a hard time. That person who needs to be reminded that they have more than they think. And leave me a comment. Tell me, what are you grateful for today? Not the big things necessarily. The small things, the simple things, the things you might usually overlook. Write it down. Share it. Let's create a community of gratitude together. Because here's what I know. When we share what we're grateful for, it multiplies. Gratitude inspires someone else's, and theirs inspires another's. And suddenly, we're all seeing our lives a little differently. We're all appreciating what truly matters. So start today. Start now. Keep a gratitude journal. Every night, write down 3 things, even on the hardest days. Especially on the hardest days. Watch how it changes you. Watch how it changes your life. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing these stories to touch your heart. Thank you for being part of this community that believes life always has purpose. That even in darkness there's light. That what truly matters is worth paying attention to. See you in the next video. And you, what truly matters to you?